Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for tuning in to another morning breakthrough with Coco, helping you undo so God can do. Let us be thankful for another day, not promised, but indeed graciously granted. Hope everybody is doing well this morning. So we are continuing with week 4. And this morning, our topic is, I'm telling y'all, the deeper we get into this, the deeper we are digging into the stronghold. So this one, yesterday we did a recap of the generational strongholds. We talked about conflict resolution and also bad decision making strongholds. This morning we are getting into selfish deception strongholds. Good morning, Sharifa. And and as I was going over this, I was reading this yesterday, and God just started downloading some stuff to me. So we're gonna get into a little bit more then. Some selfish deception. There's two other words that I want to point out too. But remember, we've been talking about the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so, if you go back and read, especially to like Genesis 25, and if you read Genesis 27, you have to read the whole context to get the full picture of it. You will see how, at one point in Genesis 25, where Esau sold his birthright to his brother for a bowl of stew. Then, when you get to Genesis 27, you see where Isaac is at a point of death and he is ready to give his blessings to Esau. And one of the things it mentions is that when they gave their blessings, that was like giving, that was inheritance and everything. He describes this as the wedding, the dedication, the baptism, graduation, inheritance, all tied into one. So this was not just some, this was a big thing for the father to give his blessing to his son. And so we see how in Genesis 27 that Isaac tells Esau to go and to get his weapon and his bow and to go and hunt game and then prepared for him. Well, in the other room, guess what? Rebecca is listening and eavesdropping, and she hears this. So instead, so while Esau is doing his thing, she has Jacob to go and get. I think it was two two animals from their flock outside, and she cooks them, and they come up with this whole scheme. And it's like, okay, Esau is hairier than Jacob, so they have to set Jacob up where he has hair in his arms and smells like Esau. And so you can see the deception and the selfishness in all of this, because he disguised himself. And a lot of times, so we have seen how the generational sin is in their family, where Abraham lied, Isaac lied, Jacob lied. Now we're also seeing the selfishness where they did things so that they could get what they wanted out of the situation. Good morning, Nisi. So a lot of times we have to, and hopefully this morning y'all will see how, we already talked about the 4 different types of temperaments. We're all born with certain personality traits, certain dispositions in us. And it's not that they're bad, but when we are born into the world and we get around people and we get into situations, then they tend to turn things that God meant for good into bad. So we see how they have turned the situation around. We see how the mother is, and you also see favoritism with this, like Isaac favored Esau, the mom Rebecca favored Jacob. So you see how favoritism has turned his family against each other. So that's that's what we're talking about this morning: selfish deception strongholds. And we're not just talking about, I'm giving you the story or the background of the scriptural background, so to speak. But remember, this whole series is about identifying strongholds within ourselves. What are we doing, or are we in certain positions where we're still bound by certain strongholds? So remember, even though we may talk about other people, we'll still make sure we're taking a look at self to see, am I doing this? Okay. So again, we see where Rebecca and Jacob create this scheme to get the blessing for him, and yes, it is still happening today, Nisi. And then Esau finally comes back. He goes in and he to get his blessing, only to find out that he's been deceived yet again by his brother Jacob. And guess what? Because of that, Jacob has to flee. He has to flee to Laban, and he ends up becoming deceived when he gets ready to marry Rachel, but instead gets Leah. So we see how being selfish, how concocting these schemes, how wanting things for ourselves, having that selfish ambition, so to speak, can work out. Sometimes it does not always work out in our favor. So one of the things, the questions is, when you read Genesis 27-5, and we just kind of went through this, consider how each family member is causing harm to themselves and to others. Rebecca was eavesdropping. She got with Jacob, and they concocted this scheme. So it's like the family is working against each other. So you can tell that there's obviously some type of division with the favoritism. So as parents, are you being careful that you are, because obviously when you have kids, and I don't have kids, so I'm just speaking from as a child and just from observation. So, but as you are parenting, are you making sure? One thing he notes was to make sure that you are not showing favoritism. Obviously, you're going to treat each child different based on, again, their temperament, based on their personality. But you also have to be careful that you're not showing favoritism, that you're not putting one child above the other. So you just have to be careful with that. What evidence? So here's a personal question for you to think about. What evidence of selfish strongholds do you see in your family? How specifically do you participate in those ways of treating others? Have you noticed any selfishness strongholds in your family? Now, I know as little kids, you may see your little kids, they're growing up, and sometimes they don't like to share. And then you have to teach them the importance of sharing. But after a certain time, if you're still noticing certain traits of selfishness, then obviously there's a stronghold somewhere for you to acknowledge and recognize and then address. Another thing he mentions as far as people who are selfish, yes, Nisa, you have to have equal love. Some may need extra attention, but you have to give yourself totally. Yes, again, that's just, as a parent, you have to recognize, how to still give equally to each of your kids without necessarily showing favoritism. One of the things he mentions is, and again, we're looking at how we grew up, because we're still in family dysfunction. So maybe you saw this in your family. So we lie to get what we have to have. We deceive, and maybe it's not an outright lie or a bold-faced lie, but we steer it and spin it and twist it and find a way to get our way. Have you recognized that maybe that was something that you grew up in? Maybe that was how your household was. Sometimes, again, we inherit things based on what we've seen in our family, based on what we've seen our mom do, based on what we've seen our daddy or grandma do, or whoever raised us, or maybe we've seen it in other authorities. And so that becomes part of our nature, even though it's not what we were necessarily born with. So we have to be careful that when we start noticing things in ourselves, it's like, okay, I notice. So again, a lot of this is just to bring things to your attention. Am I doing this? Am I being selfish? Am I, how am I treating people? Am I doing things for my own personal gain with no mind of the person that I'm wanting it from? In other words, am I trying to get what I want and not caring about what they want? Two words that come to mind. So a lot of times, two things that came to mind. So as we're talking about selfishness, selfish deception, strongholds. I read a book, and I forgot to bring that book up because I don't remember the exact name of it. But Sharifa, you may be familiar with. I don't know if you got it or not, from Apostle, and it talked about manipulation. And I want to digress to that for a little bit because manipulation has a lot to do with people being selfish. They want what they want. They don't care how they get it, and but they are slick about it. They are very, very slick about it. So here's the thing. So some people are slick about it, and some people are. You can tell that it's what they're doing based on what they say. So sometimes people will allow or accept your kindness, your uh, gestures of kindness, and your gifts, but they have no intention of reciprocating it. So sometimes you may find yourself in relationships, and not just personal relationships with a spouse or a significant other, but also in work relationships or just with friends or associates where you are giving, but you give because that is part of your nature, and they receive because that's what they want. You're giving them what they want, but they have no sense of reciprocation. In other words, they like to receive. So those are the takers, and these are people that think is Bishop T.D. Jakes, and I've heard other pastors talk about it too. Be careful of the people that you are associated with, and know where people fit in your life. You have people who are comrades, or people who I can't remember the four exact names they said, but you have people who are in your corner and for you and will fight for you and with you. Then you have some people who are only in your corner for a temporary time because your enemy is also their enemy. Then you have people who are in your life who are simply just takers, where you give to them, they receive, there is no reciprocation. So you have to know where people fit. But again, so when it comes to manipulation, some people, they will concubines, yes, it was concubines, comrades, and I can't remember the other two. Some people also have a tendency, so this is kind of, I see it as a form of manipulation too, but some people have a tendency to hint at things over and over again that they want or need and wait for somebody to give it to them. That's a form of manipulation. Manipulation also comes through or also involves fear, obligation, and guilt. So one of the things that I want to mention is we have to, again, be able to acknowledge certain things in ourselves. So when you find yourself in and out of situations, so just to be transparent here, I was questioning God, like, why do I keep attracting certain people? So one of the things that I heard, I think it was Dr. Matthew Stevenson say, we attract people based on the a needs complement, so to speak. In other words, people see something in us that they need and they connect to us. But but where the discernment comes in is, do I let that person in? Yes, we may attract certain people, but we don't necessarily have to allow those people in. But when you find yourself allowing people in that you know are manipulative, that you know mean you know well, that you know are abusive, then it's not a question of them or blaming them. It becomes a question of, what is it about me that, not just why do I attract these people, but why do I even allow them in? And so that's where you have to be honest with self, like, I allow them in because of what I think based on a belief. So again, I hope you're seeing how all of this is tying in because of your natural disposition. So just to break it down even more, I am a natural giver. I am a natural encourager. And so a lot of times that's just who I am. That's who I was born. That's what I was born with. But over time, because people have used and abused that because of how I've been, not necessarily how I've been raised, but just situations that I've been in, my thought has been, let me see, I think I wrote it down. My thought has been, if I do this, they will like me. And so the belief then becomes, I do this so they will like me, or I have to be this way in order to gain attention, in order to gain praise, in order to gain approval. So we have to be honest with self. So if you find that, so when I was reading this book about manipulation, here's one of the things that I noticed, and it was a hard confession for me. So again, that's why I said you have to be honest with yourself. It's easy to say and point out those who are manipulators, but if you're being manipulated, you have to ask yourself, what is the stronghold in me that puts me, that I keep getting in these situations? So you have the manipulators, and they can see that you're generous. They can see that you're giving, but you have the choice to stop that. And so, but here's what I also noticed, or what I also had to admit that was a little bit hard to confess, but it's like, okay, yeah, that's me. I've been manipulated like that. I'm not a manipulator, but as I kept reading in the book, what I realized was that even some of us, so, and this is a stronghold, even those of us who are naturally givers, who are naturally encouragers, guess what? Even you are manipulators too. Even we are manipulators too. How? We are manipulators in the sense that we give and we do, and we're generous to people so that we can get some type of praise or some type of encouragement in return. So guess what? It goes different ways. We all have it in us, but it's a matter of us controlling it and acknowledging it and recognizing it. So sometimes, again, it's not about the other person, it's about us. What is in me that causes me to attract people who are manipulative, but how am I also being a manipulator? So again, that's what the so this still all falls under the selfish deception stronghold. And real quick, another word that came to mind as far as selfishness is narcissism. Narcissists are people who care nothing about what other people think. And I don't care how right you are in what you say. I don't care how right you are in your arguments or your actions. They will turn it around on you in such a way to make you feel like you're the bad person, to make you feel like you're in the wrong. And one particular person, because I'm not going to get deep into that, but if you feel like you may be in a relationship or around somebody who is a narcissist, one person that I know that talks a lot about narcissism is R.C. Blakes. R.C. Blakes. He is on YouTube, and he talks a lot about. He is a huge women advocate, and he talks a lot. He is a pastor, but he is also a father figure in helping women understand how to prepare themselves for relationships and how to be careful of men or mates who have narcissist personalities. So he talks a lot about it. If you type in narcissist or R.C. Blakes, you will see a lot of his videos. So I encourage you to go to his videos to check those out. But again, talking about selfish deception strongholds. Consider how you are treating people. So again, I've been telling y'all this to just take mindful. So it's just one of those things that you just have to be mindful of as you go about your day, as you go about your week. Start considering how you're treating other people. Start considering how the thoughts behind how you are treating other people. Because again, the actions only change if we start to change our thought process and if we start to change how we believe. We are, and it doesn't make you a bad person if you realize that, oh, I have been selfish in this way. It doesn't make you a bad person. All it means is, okay, I admit I have been selfish in this way. I have done things for my gain, for selfish gain. I have used people. I have manipulated people. Okay, I've done it. Lord, I am asking you to teach me now how to change my thought process so that I'm not manipulative, but also so that I'm not easily manipulated, because there are strongholds there too. So I have gone over my time this morning. Those are my nuggets on Selfish deception strongholds. Hopefully, something has stirred in your spirit. Again, this is all about helping you be more mindful of who you are and acknowledging your strongholds so that you can be better in your relationships. We can't change anybody else. We can only change ourselves. And the only way to change our actions is to change our thoughts and change the beliefs behind them. Thank you for tuning in to another Morning Breakthrough with Coco, helping you undo so God can do. Be safe, stay safe, and remember to be a blessing to someone else. Love y'all. Thanks for being on, Nisi. Love y'all.